The first round of your fantasy draft isn't just about grabbing a big name, it's about maximizing value and avoiding early landmines. One wrong pick, you're chasing points all season. But the right move, that sets the tone for a championship run. This is how the first round of PPR fantasy football drafts should go. And let's start at number 1 with Ja'Marr Chase. Now, full disclaimer here, I don't expect Ja'Marr Chase to be as good as he was last year because that was a historic season, one of the best wide receiver seasons of all time. But that being said, you still got to draft this guy with your number 1 pick. He's an elite player in the prime of his career, in an elite offense, attached to elite QB. He can legit win you weeks on his own on any given week. Yeah, he may not match what he did last year, but it doesn't matter. This guy is young, talented, and has so much upside. I think he's got to be the number 1 pick in 2025 drafts. Now on to number 2, and I'm going with the guy that I think may actually be the highest scoring player in fantasy this year, and that is Bijan Robinson. I'm going to take him slightly ahead of Saquon Barkley, and I'll talk about why in a second here. But the 3 reasons why I really like Bijan Robinson this year. Number 1, he led all running backs, yes, even over Saquon Barkley, in weighted opportunities last year. Number 2, he catches many more passes than Saquon Barkley. Barkley is a great pass catcher, but in that Eagles offense, not a lot of opportunities to catch passes. And number 3, he's younger and he has less wear and tear. Yeah, I know injuries can happen to anybody, even the young guys, but I'm going to give a young running back in his prime, in an elite situation, who's an elite talent, the slight edge over the slightly older guy in Saquon Barkley. Now that being said, I've got Saquon Barkley at number 3, and I have no issues if you want to take Saquon Barkley over Bijan Robinson. But again, kind of like Ja'Marr Chase, is Saquon Barkley going to do what he did last year again? Probably not. We've never seen a running back go back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. That is asking for a lot. But also, that being said, this is another guy on any given week can carry your fantasy team and win you weeks. I gave the reasons why I like Bijan slightly more than Barkley. But again, if you want to take Barkley over Bijan, totally fine with it. No argument for me. Now coming in at number 4, I'm going to go Justin Jefferson, slightly over CeeDee Lamb. And again, this one is very, very close here, but Justin Jefferson has just proven he is an elite wide receiver attached to an elite offensive coordinator. Yes, I said offensive coordinator because, I guess he's the head coach technically, Kevin O'Connell, but he also calls the plays. Because what I love about the situation for Justin Jefferson is Kevin O'Connell understands he needs to get the ball in Jefferson's hands as often as he possibly can. There's no issue with target share here. I'm not worried about J.J. McCarthy supporting Justin Jefferson as an elite wide receiver. And if it's not McCarthy, it's going to be Nick Mullins. And we already saw he was elite even with Nick Mullins. Now, I'll say it's close between him and CeeDee Lamb. And the reason why I have CeeDee Lamb at 5 and Jefferson at 4 is I'm a little nervous about the George Pickens addition. Now, CeeDee Lamb has also proven he is an absolute stud, regardless of the quarterback. Even last year with Cooper Rush, he was an absolute stud. He's a stud wide receiver. But I do wonder if George Pickens is going to take a little bit of enough of a target share away from CeeDee Lamb, maybe enough touchdown upside from CeeDee Lamb to keep him from being, a top 2, top 3, top 4 player in fantasy. But again, no issues whatsoever if you want to go CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson. These guys are neck and neck. They're both going to be complete, absolute studs in your PPR leagues. I have no issue drafting either of these guys, and if you want to flip them, I'm okay with that. Now, at number 6, I'm going to go with Malik Nabers. This is another guy I think legit could be the highest scoring player in fantasy this year, the highest scoring wide receiver in fantasy. Last year, he was second behind only Ja'Marr Chase in targets. Now, unfortunately, he turned those 170-plus targets only into 1,200 yards because his quarterbacks were horrible. Well, now he's going to have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, maybe rookie Jackson Dart. Whoever it is, it's better than the combination of Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito that he had to deal with last year. And again, kind of like Justin Jefferson, what I love about his situation is Brian Daboll and this offensive coordinator understand he needs to be the entire offense. They find ways to get this guy the ball. Easy throws, in stride, have those yards after the catch. And what we didn't see last year was the deep ball connection. Had no connection on the deep ball because, again, his quarterbacks couldn't throw a deep ball. That's going to change in 2025, especially with Russell Wilson starting. We know he can still chuck those moon balls. So I think Malik Nabers legit has the upside to be the highest scoring wide receiver in fantasy, maybe even the highest scoring player in fantasy. So I'm going to slot him in at number 6. And if you're thinking to yourself, man, I want to take advantage of these ADPs, I want to start doing some fantasy drafts, you got to head to Underdog Fantasy right now because they have all sorts of fantasy drafts going on all offseason long, including their flagship Best Ball Mania 6, which is going to make multiple millionaires. Not to mention, they just dropped their playoff basketball promo. With the extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs. Start a playoff series by using your Game 1 boost and continue boosting each subsequent game to unlock the next one. The longer the series, the bigger the boost. You're going to want to see how serious it gets when that Game 7 hits. Hop on Underdog, the best place to make picks during playoff basketball, and get started right now. And when you do, make sure you join using promo code ENDGAME, because not only is that going to get you a free pick, but also up to $1,000 of bonus cash. Then at number 7, I'm going with Nico Collins, who for most of last year when he was healthy was actually the highest scoring player in fantasy, or the highest scoring wide receiver, I should say, in fantasy. People forget this guy for the first month of the season last year was destroying everybody. And then he suffered that injury. And the year before that, what did he do? Destroyed everybody. What did he do when he came back from his injury last year? Destroyed everybody. This guy is a stud wide receiver. He might be the most disrespected stud wide receiver in all of fantasy football. He's attached to CJ Stroud. And what did they do? I'm not worried about the wide receivers they added. Christian Kirk, whatever. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, I like those guys. They're nice. But these are rookie wide receivers. They're not coming in and taking significant target share from Nico Collins in year one. Nico Collins is going to continue to be an absolute monster week in and week out as long as he's on the field. Again, gets disrespected. A lot of times you can get him later in the first round, but I think this is where he should be ranked. Now at number 8, this is going to be a surprise to a lot of people, but this is where I'm slotting in Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of people just ranking this guy as like a top 3, top 5 player in fantasy, and I get it. He finished the season so strong, won fantasy championships. He's a great player. He's still in what I believe will be a great offense, even without Ben Johnson. But I think a lot of people are forgetting the splits with and without David Montgomery last year. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs was not bad with David Montgomery in the lineup, not even close. But he had more of a high floor and not so much of the ceiling we saw when David Montgomery was out. Now, sure, David Montgomery could miss time this year. David Montgomery could miss the end of the season, and Jahmyr Gibbs could absolutely go off once again this year. But is that really what you're going to bank on in your draft, like David Montgomery being out of the picture? Look, if David Montgomery was out of the picture, I think Jahmyr Gibbs might be my 101 even ahead of Chase. But David Montgomery, we got to assume he's healthy. He'll still be there. He's going to take an annoying amount of touchdowns away from Jahmyr Gibbs, an annoying amount of touches away from Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think this is a fair spot for Gibbs. He still gives you an insanely high floor, just not that crazy high weekly ceiling we saw when David Montgomery was out. Then right behind him, I'm going to go with rookie Ashton Jeanty. Now, I know some people are going to say, but it's the Raiders. It's a terrible landing spot. But this isn't the same Raiders we're used to. This isn't the Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Antonio Pierce-led Raiders. This is the Geno Smith, Pete Carroll-led Raiders, and that is a significant upgrade to this offense. Not to mention, they already have Brock Bowers, they already have Jacoby Myers, and they added a great pass catcher in Jack Besh. This offense, I think, is going to surprise a lot of people, and unlike when Bijan was drafted a couple years ago and he had to deal with a Tyler Algier, there's no Tyler Algier on this roster. The running backs are horrible. No competition for Jeanty whatsoever. He should be locked into 300-plus touches as a rookie. He's an amazing talent, one of those generational type running backs that very rarely come along, like a Bijan Robinson, like a Saquon Barkley. He should be ready to smash in year one, and it wouldn't even surprise me if he outperformed the number 9 overall player, but I can't put him ahead of those more proven stud players, so I got him right here at number 9. Then at number 10, I'm going with the year 2 wide receiver. That is Brian Thomas Jr. I'm a little nervous about the addition of Travis Hunter. I can't lie. And I'm also a little nervous about the fact that he was way better with Mac Jones under center than Trevor Lawrence. But I'm going to give T-Law the benefit of the doubt here. And I'm going to say Brian Thomas Jr., who's an elite player, a fantastic player, is still going to command a massive enough target share and always has that big play upside that you want, especially the end of your first round here. I love picking at the end of the first round because there's so many high upside players that you can get, so many good combos. I think Brian Thomas Jr., even with the addition of Travis Hunter, has to still be a first round pick, and I'm going to slot him in here at number 10. And then at number 11, I know this is also going to be a little bit surprising to everybody. This is where I'm going to slot in Christian McCaffrey. Yes, I think Christian McCaffrey still needs to be a first-round pick in fantasy. Yes, there's injury concerns, of course. This guy, we know what it is with Christian McCaffrey. If he's healthy, he smashes. Top 1, top 2 fantasy player. If he's hurt, well, he kills your team. but I'm willing to take that risk at pick 11. He sounds like he's fully healthy. Kyle Shanahan already saying, hey, we're not going to hold him back this year. If he's healthy, he's getting his touches. The offense should also be healthy. Remember, last year, this entire offense was just decimated with injuries. Everybody going into this year should be healthy. I think the 49ers offense as a whole is being completely slept on because of the injuries last year. Don't be surprised if this entire offense bounces back, and especially Christian McCaffrey. And don't be surprised if getting him here looks like an absolute steal at the end of the year. And then finally, rounding out my top 12 is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God. Now, I'll say I'm okay with like Puka Nacua here. I'm okay with Derrick Henry here. But the reason why I'm going to put in Sun God is because, again, we just know this guy gives you such an insane weekly floor in your PPR leagues. Yeah, we didn't see the ceiling we saw a couple years ago last year, but I think we could see that return this year. New offensive coordinator, that doesn't scare me. This is still going to be one of the better offenses in the NFL. And they run the offense. Well, they run the passing game through him, I should say. Obviously, the running game, they have a good running game. But we know Amon-Ra St. Brown gives you such a high floor every single week, week in, week out. And what I also like, this guy is a gamer. He plays through injuries. You know, he's not one of these guys you have to worry about sitting out for minor little nicks and bumps and bruises. This guy's a gamer. He wants to be out there. He wants to play every week. And that actually matters in fantasy football, especially when we're talking about our first round pick. So again, Puka fine here, Henry fine here. I'm going to put Amon-Ra St. Brown at 12. So now you know how the first round of your draft should go, but you need to know many more things than just the first round if you're going to win in fantasy football. But don't worry, we got you covered. Check out our 2025 playlist to help you win right here.